also a saturation index or a Lange-Gallier's index, I guess. So what this is basically your water balancing, okay? So it's really important to balance your water to make sure that everything's working in harmony with each other, okay? So what you do is you do your alkalinity test, and you just mark put a dot on the graph, the alkalinity, what your reading was. Hopefully it's in the range. And then you do the same for your pH level, okay? Then what you do is you just draw a straight line through those two dots across to your calcium. So on the front page before it said that calcium was the desired value was C saturation index. This is what they're talking about, okay? So this is something that you guys can just photocopy if you want to use. You get do your alkalinity tests. So just plot your alkalinity, plot your pH, and then you should have a straight line. So just run that straight line across. And then that should tell you roughly where your calcium should be. Okay? I always sort of think your calcium should be around about the 125, 130. And then sort of your alkalinity, so it's more of a straight line going through there, or a slight angle. There is a bit of a balance if you're way out on what your readings are, because you can test for your calcium every month. So you can actually see what you got in the pool and then see where you should be at. But you can manipulate it a little bit by adjusting your pH or your alkalinity level to remove that line. Okay, so it's just a matter of sitting there looking at what you need to probably do. But whatever you do, don't do too much. Okay, if you make an adjustment to the pool, leave it for a while, see what it does. And then if it didn't quite give you the desired outcome, then do something else or add a little more or something. Okay? A lot of people just get in that mindset that they want to see instant results on their water treatment. So they put in half a bag of sodium bicarb, tested an hour later and they didn't see the results, and they add in another half bag or do something, or something it's just shot through the roof the next day. And then they've got to do something else to bring it back down again, and then it goes the opposite way. And so it's sort of like chasing your tail, wasting money at the same time. So I know money's probably pretty scarce in community pools, so it's just using as little product as you can and just taking your time with it. Okay? There's no rush. If you're outside the readings, you probably shouldn't be open until you get you back in, but it's just the safety side of things. The only thing, if you are outside stuff, who's got a risk management plan, like for water treatment? Yeah. So if you guys do a water treatment course, then you can actually put on your risk plan that it's under the person who's done the training is watching that, so it actually gives you that flexibility to be outside the range, still open, but it's being monitored by someone who's trained to look after water. Okay, so just little things like that. And on the second page, there's been a lot of confusion around this, but there's under the notes on table 2, and I'm just looking at point 2 in particular. It talks about continuous automatic controllers. Okay. Now I'm not sure if you guys have automatic dosing systems. This is what this is referring to. But only certain controllers actually qualify for this exemption. So this means that if you put in a continuous automatic controller, which is continually monitoring your chlorine and your pH levels, you can actually do fewer tests during the day. Okay? As few as 2. So you don't have to do it every 3 hours if you've got that sort of thing. So we've just installed one at the Bluff Pool on behalf of the Bluff Trust, and just got that up and running. It's got email call outs, when it's out of range. It's got an app so they can dial into the controller and see what it pulls through, all that sort of stuff. That's probably higher end, and there's some other ones that sort of require, which are probably a little bit cheaper, but I mean there's still 5,000 plus. Yeah, so there's still a lot of money involved in those, but it's a really good way if you can't actually meet this, if you don't have one available to do the testing frequencies, then it's an investment in the pool to get one of these set up.
So do you think it was money well spent, even though it was kind of expensive? Is it doing a good job?
Yep. Yeah, they've got a
Thinking, wow, this is
BEXA 3.
impressive kind of thing?
Yeah, no, they've got a BEXA 3, which is the basic model of BEXA controllers.
Yeah.
So it's an American controller. That's all that you guys would need out of pool. It's just the very basic sort of line. At Splash Palace, we've got the big 6.5s, we've got 6 of them. So they're about 12 grand each. We've had them for a few years now, and we're just, I've dealt with a lot of controllers in my time, and those ones are far the best.
And is it just testing what the level is, or is it also responding and putting more chemical in it? Is it?
Yeah, so we do a daily test anyway.
Mm.
Okay, we balance our water weekly, but because we obviously have a lot of patrons coming through, we have a lot more fluctuation in some of our chemicals that we dose manually. So we've got CO2, which brings our pH in, it's automatically fed, and we've got sodium hypochlorite, which is automatically fed to a second as well. The things that we do manually is calcium and bicarb. Bicarb not so often because our alkalinity is pretty stable, but just that calcium, and calcium is purely just every week when we go to balance the water out. So that's a good question.
Sorry, not quite. So the Bluff Pool one that you put in, it's testing
It's testing
and sending off results, but does it respond by upping chlorine
Yes.
rates if it needs it?
No, you have a set rate.
Oh, yeah, so
really
somebody's still got to come in and turn up the dial.
No. So what it does, you set the rate to start off with,
Right,
and then it will just control that pump
okay.
to dose.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. So it does control.
Yeah, so hands off pretty much and you can keep it at that level.
Yeah, and that's the whole point of them getting down, is that they couldn't do the 3-hour testing. So for them to be, open a little bit longer and that sort of stuff, they had to put something that was going to help them out with. So we'll go into some questions because I think that's mostly everything. Anyone got any questions? You had a question before?
I was just in regards to the 3 hours, because obviously if we're a school pool, that is then available for key holders outside of the school hours. And the Ministry of Education regs say that it must be 3 times a minimum of 3. Plus technical 3 times a day, but of course that one says 3 hours. So.
But you immediately see that after that.
Yeah, but that wasn't, it's black and it's white, or is it just grey? So does it depend how well we argue the point? No, we would just, we decide to shut a little bit early.
Yeah.
Is it either 3 hours or is it?
So this is the New Zealand standard. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know whether the ministry getting their requirements.
Well, it does. The ministry does say that we must follow, but costs are ridiculous. So.
Those sort of
Council offers funding.
yeah, and those sort of things I can really advocate and bring together councils and funders and say, look, if we have a 1-day training where we pay for Steve or who else's time and bring you together, that's an investment instead of you guys trying to find the money applying for funding separately. It's going to cost them less.
Yeah.
So those sort of things I'm happy to really advocate for.
Yeah. But then you've got their monthly water testing costs now, which a lot of us don't do. That's another monthly cost, but you can't get funding for something that is a running cost. Because that's a general running, because you don't get funding for stuff like that. So you need to make it.
There's groups out there that will give you money for running costs. COGS is a good one for that. Even lotteries do now.
Yeah, you could probably get funding from some of the trusts.
Do you guys do your own? You would do your own microorganism tests, eh?
No.
No.
The goes to the lab.
Okay. Do you, on the top of your head, have any idea what that costs? I know I can call them on Monday and I can ask them, but
That.
Yeah.
But then we must follow what they.
So
it's like who trumps who.
Well, I'd say the standard of Trump ministry.
Yeah, the standard trumps it. So the standard actually comes from Ministry of Health input as well.
Yeah.
So Ministry of Education has to follow really what is set out by the water safety guidelines.
And they're saying 3 times because school's open between 9 and 3.
Yeah.
I suppose it's for,
9, 12, 3.
they're kind of considering our swimmers, school swimmers, aren't they?
You could change daily though, because if you don't have anyone using the pool to after lunch, you just do it lunchtime test and after school test.
Right,
Yeah,
so
if
we
you-
can
if you
just,
close
we can
it,
just,
yeah.
we can just in that 3-year period just say not open or, you know, what, like,
Yes.
as long as
As long
we,
as
as
you're
long as
testing it
we
before someone goes in there to
put
make sure
something on.
that it's safe. This is all about, the standard was all about safety, okay? Because you need to check that your pouring's right, 'cause if you don't have, if your pouring goes high and then you don't test and someone goes into the pool, then they've got a risk of pouring burn, okay? So there's quite a few risks with it. And not to scare you or anything, it's not, it's just to say that, yeah, this is why we do this. It's just to make sure that people who use our pool can come and use our pool safely, okay? And they're not gonna be harmed by anything, okay?
If there's cloudy water, what would you be looking at first? What would it be first?
If it's cloudy, I'll just make sure your filter's filtering properly.
Yeah.
Because sometimes if someone hasn't put a valve back in the right place, you'll be bypassing the filter, which could be cloudy water. And then you'd look at you'd be looking at your chemical tests as well.
Pool loading too can affect that as well.
Yeah, pool loading.
So if you have excessive pool loading and the filter can't keep up
Yeah.
with it, that's another reason you'll get that cloudy water as well.
Yeah. If you, there's another document, which is another standard, 4441, which is your pool design standard. Okay, so that in that it shows you how to calculate your bather loads. So,
Yeah, I don't think it would be that because it's very quiet pool.
yeah.
But it just is, it's getting cloudy quite often. I queried it with them and they said it was air in the water.
Well, air can do the same thing,
That'd be
but
it.
you'll see the air bubbles in the water as
Yeah,
well.
but would that not be like that all the time because it's intermittent? If it's
Potentially, if it's sucking air through from somewhere, we can do this.
How do you maintain the bather load?
How do you maintain the bather
Well,
load?
how do you enforce the bather load? Like our large pool can handle quite a large number of people, but our smaller pool, the kids' pool, is quite limited because it's got smaller volume.
Yeah,
How do you police it?
yeah, we have lifeguards. That do that. But I guess it's just around what can you do? Can you increase your filtration rate? Can you increase the pouring? Can you predict these increase the bather loads? You know, just to try and manage a wee bit. You might have to backwash a bit more often. It is really hard to manage small pools with a large volume of people. Put up some signage, X amount of people at a time. Because if it's a shallow pool, then your bather load's going to be really low. So, and then you normally work about a cubic metre per person per day. So, yeah.
Challenge you guys have is a lot of times your full pool turnover is anywhere between 6 to 8 hours for a full
Yeah.
turnover of water to clean it. Whereas when you're talking about commercial pool or the pools that we're working with, for instance, my main pool's every 3 hours at water's turned
2 to
over.
3 hours, yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, were most pools here built in the 60s and 70s? Yeah, so they were built to, there's no real standard in terms of turnover back then, so some of them were every 4 to 6 hours. So you could look at if it's going to be a continuous problem, upgrading your filtration pump, putting a bigger filter in and increasing the circulation rate.
We've just upgraded all the filters in our pool and made a hell of a difference.
Yeah.
Got rid of all that cloudy
Yeah.
crap that's going on.
So did you do that in line with 4441?
In line with
With
it.
the filtration and circulation rate?
His face may be your answer.
He's just like, oh no! So this is where the 4441,
This has got up now.
this is, yeah, so this is where 4441 comes in. So it's standard you can buy online. Is if you're doing maintenance or any changes to your pool, is that you just check that everything complies with current regulations. Okay? So you don't do something and then find that it doesn't. And this is, yeah, it's money down the drain really.
Do you, sorry, no, you go ahead.
Stephen, you talked about water testing training, because I trained with Opus, they ran a course.
Yep.
So do you do that in Southam? I'm thinking about the rest of our committee who have expressed interest but haven't yet done that.
Yep.
So you would run a course at Splash Coast?
Is there interest for more interest for that?
So, so Tim mentioned before about just the district council contacts. So I've got a contact at the district council who I would be emailing to look at doing one maybe in November.
Right.
If I have time to find someone to slot that in. Just be a one-day course.
And
So-
it gives the person the standard.
Yeah,
It
what
gives-
units then?
It's two,
Four shifts?
two,
Double
four, double six or something like that.
Some units.
I can't remember. It's just-
Because I think one of their guys went in, but it was only offered these 2 unit standards, but I mean, we're only required,
There's 2
to
unit
have-
standards, so there's 2-day course, which will be the 2,
yeah.
and there's a 1-day course, which will be.
So obviously, there's a bigger
Share
cost
both
with
of
the
them
2
online.
one, and there wasn't an option just to do the, 2046, which is the only
Yeah,
unit
that's-
standard we're required to have.
Yeah.
So if we could just
Yeah,
be
that's what mine
offered
is.
just a one, we don't,
Yeah.
we don't
I
want to
can
go
do it, I
into
can-
their career, we
Yeah.
just want to actually
Understand.
meet the standard and maintain the point.
Isn't that the one that the council then offered one free spot?
Yeah.
If we did, I'm sure we got 2 standards out of the one day, but you had to go home and do your paperwork.
Yeah, just the one standard for a 1-day course, and if you do a 2-day course, then you got homework to do. Yeah, it's required to do it. So
I was just gonna say, we gave the feedback to SDC last time, our pool committee is almost all farmers, and so having it in August, September, October, November is horrible for us.
Yeah.
And so our feedback had been smack dab in the middle of the winter would be nice, because really you're the only pool that's open at that time.
Yeah.
And then at least we can take the learnings for when we open up the pool.
Yeah, look, we can do them whenever. So if there's
Yeah, no,
demand-
I'm
if there's
just
demand for
saying
it.
it as a reminder, because
Yeah.
SDC should already know that.
Yeah, so we just need at least 6 people to make it sort of worth it. With my team, we put all our team, most of our team, senior team through the water treatment. So we actually just did one last week just to get a few of them trained up. We had one guy come down from Warren just to do it. But that was really short notice. I think he was booked in one and deleted, but they moved it and he couldn't make it. So just chucked him on one day to heal my team.
It's all for us, we're a community, we volunteer, and, costs are all going up on everything. We're just, there's a lot of costs. And
Oh, yeah.
we get the cost of the training, like we want to be trained, we want to know what we're doing.
A month.
How do you do it then?
We curry it down there, so there's the additional cost of that. So the secretary does the water test at school, rings up the courier.
I work for the Chicago City Council, I'm the manager of Splash Colours here. So a little bit about me, I've been in the industry 24 years. Started off as a lifeguard back in 1998, so I'm one of the old farts in the industry. I spent 16 years doing plant maintenance and water treatment, so this is really, water treatment is my specialty. Okay. The last couple of years I've been the manager at Splash Colours. So also a pool safe assessor for Recreation Aotearoa, and I'm just recently become a facilitator for Watermark Training Consultancy to do water treatment courses in the southern region. Okay, so makes it a little bit more accessible for community pools to get some water treatment training. Okay, so today we're just going to run through some pool quality sort of stuff. Really, it's pretty sort of basic sort of thing. Well, for me, but we'll just go through the ins and outs with you guys, just as community pools, to give you a better understanding of where you sit and how to read standards and what you should be doing. And you can probably relate that back to what you are doing, and you can make the changes as you see fit. Okay, so to start off with, who's heard of the New Zealand Standard 5826/2010? Okay. Has anyone read it? Okay, so that's really the standard that we all need to be treating our pools to. Okay, so what I've handed you out just now is an insert from the standard. Okay, so that tells you around the frequency of testing, your testing limits, and all that sort of stuff, and what your water should be. Okay. I'm a bit surprised that only 1 or 2 people put their hand up.
I got confused with the numbers. I think I probably.
Yeah, it's the only standard, sort of superseded one back in early 2000s.
And some of us will have had other committee or volunteer members who've been,
Yeah.
like I say, we don't do the water treatment, other guys do. Yeah.
So basically in the standard outlines a couple of things. domestic pools and public pools, okay? So does anyone here sort of know where they sort of sit with domestic or public? Yep, so you're all public pools, okay? So as per public pools, you've got certain requirements under the standard, and you can, we can go through this line by line, just because it's really just the fundamentals of water treatment. I don't want to confuse it, so I'll keep it basic, okay? So pH, which is a measure of hydrogen ions in the water, okay? It's really critical that we get that at a good range between 7.4 and 7.6, okay? There's certain chemicals that you can use to do that. The chlorine that you use to disinfect your pool has a big factor on what your pH is, as well as if you're treating for alkalinity, so that will fluctuate a little bit. My philosophy is put as little chemicals in the pool as possible, okay? Otherwise you're sort of chasing your tail all the time trying to balance your water, okay? So first of all, you choose a chlorine product that's going to be suitable for your pool, and then you can work from that, okay? So your lowest and your highest value is 7.2 to 8. Okay, so if you're outside of that, you're not in compliance with the standards. Alright? And pH needs to be tested before people use the pool for the day, at the end of the day, and every 3 hours in between. Okay? So if you're just doing one test a day, it's non-compliant.
Can I ask questions?
I'm going to wait till the end if you want.
Right,
Yep.
sure.
Bank them up and we'll answer them all again. There are probably more small questions. In school pools, generally you might just go from a 9 to 3. You might not have kids in the pool all day. You can get away with just doing the morning test and the afternoon test. Yep. So you don't have to do every 3 hours if the pool's generally not being used. Okay? Alkalinity, on the second line down, alkalinity provides a buffer for your pH, so it provides a more stable sort of stability for your pH in your water. Okay? Normally, if you've got a low alkalinity, you use sodium bicarb or something like that to bring alkalinity levels up. Okay? But that also affects your pH level. So these are all sort of factors that you need to consider when you're putting chemicals into the pool. Is actually, I may be treating one thing, but it might be affecting something else. Okay? Also, if I don't think anyone here would use gas chlorine. There's different gas chlorines on a whole different level. So if no one uses gas chlorine, we'll just leave that alone. That's that draw. And calcium hardness. So calcium hardness is just a measure of calcium in the water. That's the hardness or the softness of the water. Okay. So your range here is between 440 and 300. Okay. And under the most desirable value column, let's say C saturation index. Okay, we'll get to that shortly. There's a way of sort of working out what your ideal calcium hardness range should be. Okay? Calcium is one of those things, if you have too much of it, it can cause scaling or cloudy water. If you have a low calcium, etching and corrosion. Okay? Quite often heat will bring calcium out as well. So around your heat elements, if you've got white crystals forming on any particular links and that sort of stuff, it's like calcifying in those areas, and you might end up with clumps of calcium in the pool. Okay. So with alkalinity, it's a weekly test. Okay. And I know some of you guys probably don't know, or probably don't have the method to test these things, but we can always work with this and give you some ways or options to do that. And the calcium hardness is a monthly test. Okay? So free available chlorine, this is probably one of the most important ones, as well as pH. Okay, so that's the measure of chlorine in the water. Most of you will just have one source of treatment or disinfection. So your lower limit would be 1.5 and your high limit would be 7. Okay, but you need to set it at a point. So when you have people using your pool, it doesn't take it below the low level. Okay? But then you have it high enough to sort of actively disinfect that water. All right. Now, again, that's tested in the morning and in the evening, and 3 hours in between if you're operating for a substantial amount of time. We won't go combined available chlorine. It's just there's a total chlorine you can do. So if anyone knows does a chlorine test before, you can do a free available and a total available. Okay, so if you use a tablet, a DPD1 tablet will give you a free available chlorine reading, and a DPD3 on top of that will give you the total. Okay, so the total is all the chlorine in the water. The free available chlorine is the chlorine that's available to disinfect. Okay, the difference between the two we call the combined available chlorine. That's the stuff that's actually being that's really come to sort of organisms and stuff in the pool, bacteria and stuff, and it's actually doing some work. Okay, so they're the ones that produce the smell in the pools. So if you walk in, you can sort of smell the chloramines. That's those ones working. That reading needs to be as low as possible. Okay, so that's where you need to have your free available set at a point where you're combating that as well. But yeah, to do with beta loads and stuff. It gets quite technical, but we won't try and confuse you too much with all that. Anyone use bromine at all? I think it's a bit of a dying thing. I've never used it, so. So you flip over the page, cyanuric acid. So, who uses cyanuric acid? Yep. In your
At
room.
room, we shouldn't. We've got an indoor pool, it comes
Yeah.
in our tablets, it's an annual problem with us.
Yeah. Who uses chlorine in the form of a tablet? So, it might be a round tablet or a square tablet or something like that. Yep. So most likely they contain cyanuric acid. They generally have got all the chemicals in there that they need to treat. They're like trichlor tablets. Okay. The problem with that, who's got an outdoor pool in Southland? No one, right? So cyanuric acid is only for outdoor pool. Really?
Well, there's empty holes in the roof.
Yeah, so cyanuric acid. So the problem with cyanuric acid, if you don't have an outdoor pool, so UV actually breaks down chlorine in the water, right? So what cyanuric acid does, it forms a sort of like a protective layer. It's like you're putting an umbrella over your pool or a roof over your pool to protect the chlorine. Okay. The problem with it is if you don't have UV hitting your water, the cyanuric acid sits there and builds up. Okay. So I did some work with Blackmount Pool a few years ago. No one here from Blackmount, was there? No. And they had tablets, well I think one of the stingy sticks they used actually, which had cyanuric acid in it. They've got it covered in the pool. And their cyanuric acid was out the door. And they're having really a lot of problems with low pH. Okay? So cyanuric acid built up in the pool is going to put a lot of acid into the water, which is going to reduce your pH levels. Okay? So this is where it comes back to choosing the chlorine that's going to be suitable for the pool. I know the tablets or that sort of stuff's really easy for you guys. You can put it into a wee dispenser and it sort of just does its thing. If you're not emptying the water regularly over, the start of the season, the end of the season, then that cyanuric acid's going to build up. Okay, then it could give you pH issues. Then you're putting in products to increase the pH when all you've got to do is take out that cyanuric acid. Right, the last one on the line is the dissolved solids. Anyone here know what total dissolved solids are? No? So that's the wheeze and the sweat and the body fats that when bathers go swimming, it's all that stuff that comes off. You get the black ring going around your pools. Yeah, so that's the visible sign of the total dissolved, or the dissolved solids in the water. You got to give it a bit of a clean off, a bit gross. So dissolved solids got to be less than 1,000 parts per million. Who here tests for TDS? Right, so the way to bring the TDS level down is simply by adding in more fresh water. Okay? So you just waste some water, or you just do an extra backwash, or backwash for a little bit longer if you've got a sand filter. Yeah. Okay? So when it says above makeup water, what it means by that is that you've got to measure your town, or your town, you might not be in town, but your water supply water TDS as well. So if your pool is at 1,050 parts per million and your water supply is at 100, then you subtract the 100 off the 1,050, so you actually TDS is 950, so therefore it's compliant because it's 1,000. Right. Microbiological testing. Who does that? So
We're
there's
supposed
four.
to, according to the ministry.
Yeah. Yep. So everyone needs to be doing that every month that you're open. Okay. So microbiological tests, there's 4 of them that need to be done. And these are basically just picking up the small organisms and of course the lab normally has to do it. There's a HPC test, which is a electrotropic plate count, which is basically just measuring, usually higher in winter because people got colds and sniffles and that sort of stuff, so it's measuring just that general bug that's around. So when you get stuck in high, that you just know there's a bit of sickness, people come in swimming and they've probably got a bit of mucus coming out their nose and stuff like that, so yeah. Let's get into the nice stuff. And then there's a fecal coliform test. Okay, so this is just testing whether your pool's clean basically. It's quite a low level reading. We've never had one that's most colours. Despite how many times that phantom poops. So anyway, that's just what you're going to do. Just make sure that your pool's adequately treated and all that stuff. So that's a fecal coliform. Then there's one for Staffy. And there's one. What's the 4th one?
Pterosaurus.
Yeah. What was that again?
It's the
Pseudomonas.
Yeah,
Pseudomonas. I always get confused on that one. So that one is again just another bug that pick up. So every month you open, you need to have those bacteria tests done, and it's got to be done through a lab, and you've got to keep those readings. Okay. So it's basically just making sure that your pool's safe.